Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Manitou Springs City Council for July the 9th, 2024. And I would mention this, although this is a second Tuesday and we normally have work sessions, this is a regular meeting because we didn't have a meeting last week and that would have been a regular meeting. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before asking the city clerk to call the roll, I will mention that Councillor Wolf is out of town and asked to be excused, so she is excused.
City Council members Judith Chandler,
Present.
John Shada, Natalie Johnson,
Here.
Michelle Weatherholt,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nancy Fortune,
Present.
and Mayor John Graham.
Present. Thank you. Okay. Next item is approval of the agenda. Councilors, you've all had a chance to review the agenda. I would seek a motion to accept and approve the agenda.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Motion is second. Elena, how do you want us to vote? Electronically? Okay. Let's vote. Oh, excuse me. And Councilor Chandler, how do you vote?
I vote to approve.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next item is public comment on non-agenda items. This is the portion of the meeting where anyone in the public is given the opportunity to speak to a non-agenda item. You have up to 3 minutes to speak. Do we have anyone who wants to talk about a non-agenda item tonight? Again, apparently not. Let's go ahead and move on then. Next item is our consent calendar, and we've got 6 items on it tonight. The first is approval of the June 18th, 2024 City Council regular meeting minutes. The second is resolution number 1224, a resolution of the City of Manitou Springs, Colorado, updating staff members as liaison to the Regional Agency Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Transportation Advisory Committee. The third item is requesting approval of the contract with Icon Structures Incorporated for the remodel and renovation of the Manitou Pool and Fitness Center for ADA compliance. Fourth, requesting approval of the contract with Pyramid Construction for the 2024 street maintenance project. Fifth, requesting approval of the contract with Workshop 40 Architects for the Hiawatha Gardens project. Item 6, consideration of a hotel and restaurant liquor license renewal at 915 Manitou Avenue. That's Norbus LLC, doing business as Norbus. If any member of council would like to pull an item off the agenda to consider it separately, we can do so. If not, I would seek a motion to approve and accept the consent calendar.
Mayor, I'd like to pull from the consent calendar, item F1, the June 18th council meeting minutes.
Okay, and at the request of Councilor Chandler, we will consider item F1 separately. Do we have any other requests? If not, then I'd look for a motion.
I move to approve the consent calendars items F2 through F6.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's go ahead and vote. Councilor Chandler, how do you vote?
I vote to approve items 2 through 6.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Denise?
I just want to make a comment regarding the road contract. And I want to mention that 300,000 of that is coming from the parking enterprise. So that is a big thing that our community gets to reap the benefits from the parking enterprise. And we're putting 300,000. We're having the most roads done ever in I think in the history of Manitou in one summer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make. And also a little over $350,000 of that's coming from PPRTA. So we're getting some streets paved for, and we're not having to touch the general fund. So that's a really good thing. Super. Okay. Next we'll consider the item F1. That's the June 18th, 2024 City Council regular meeting minutes. I would like to thank several people who showed up to be here so they could answer questions. Eric, thank you. We'll see you later. Okay, let's go ahead. Councilor Chandler, you had concerns about the meeting minutes, so you want to lead it off?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On the meeting minutes for June 18th, on page 4 of 5, under council correspondence, it states, quote, "There was a brief discussion about meeting with David and Chris Jenkins. The consensus was that the council would suggest a public presentation followed by discussion and public comment." In the recent KRDO news report, it was stated, quote, "Manitou City officials state the meeting will not be open to public comment." So either the minutes do not reflect the will of council of the 618 minutes, or the KRDO article, which had several highly misleading comments, one of which states Manitou City officials. I want to make it clear that because the Jenkins presentation will be next Tuesday on what is now will be a work session, that the community will in fact be given 3 minutes per resident for public comment.
I'll pull up with that. Yeah. When we were talking about that, I think it was clear that our intent was to allow public comment. And I remember the bulletin stated it correctly. It was that we would have the protocol, and I'll go into this in a little more detail towards the end of the meeting with regard to the presentation next week. But the Jenkins will present their idea. The Jenkins are their agent. City Council will have the opportunity to ask questions and discuss. And then there'll be a period of public comment, and the standard rules will apply: 3 minutes per person. The usual things: give name and address, and again, since I anticipate that there'll be a number of people, a significant number of people, we'll ask them not to repeat themselves, but to if they agree with someone, they can simply indicate that they agree with people on certain points, and then discuss whatever else they want to bring to the table. So that's.
Thank you. I just bring that up because I've had numerous emails and phone calls to that, and I just wanted to make sure that the meeting minutes reflected exactly what the intent is of the meeting on the 16th. And you have clarified that. Thank you, Mayor. So I will move to approve the meeting minutes of the 16th of June.
Yeah, see, Mr. Shada has a comment.
I'll second that. And my other comment is, silently, KRDO has just removed that last line, which I thought was rather interesting. It's not in there. I thought that was kind of interesting that they removed it and didn't make a comment about why they removed it. But anyway, it's not in the KRDO story anymore, but the bulletin did correctly report it.
Good. Okay, so we have motion and a second to approve the June 18th, 2024 City Council regular meeting minutes as presented. Let's vote.
Councilor Chandler,
I approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena.
motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Judith. Okay, now down to the business items. Item G1, consideration of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Manitou Springs and the Manitou Springs Urban Renewal Authority. I think for the Urban Renewal Authority tonight, we have Ann Nichols and David Neville. And Jeff, did you want to start off and kind of walk us through this a little
I'd
bit?
be happy to introduce what I believe City Council wanted to see, and then answer any questions you have. We had prepared a agreement, an MOU with the Urban Renewal Authority several months ago, brought to City Council for review, and got some direction from City Council regarding the changes that I believe City Council wanted to see. In general, the City Council wanted to see a shorter, simplified agreement that focused almost solely on how the Urban Renewal Authority could request the city to budget and allocate city sales tax revenue to the Urban Renewal Authority. and how the urban renewal authority could make that request. I believe city council requested that we eliminate unnecessary whereas clauses and can only retain simplified versions of statements that were completely factual and not subject to any kind of misunderstanding or disagreement. And then I believe city council wanted us to be very clear the information that the URA would provide to the city as part of its annual financing plan, and the information the city council would receive when they were deciding whether or not to allocate sales tax TIF funds. So in general, the agreement was reduced, shortened, and hopefully simplified. I could just kind of walk you through each section really quickly if that's helpful.
I think that'd be useful, yeah.
Okay, so first section is just the term. It basically runs from until December 31st of 2026, which is basically sort of a 3-year, 3 annual periods, although we're already getting near the end of 2024, but that's at the end of this year would be the first request and the first financing plan you'd see from the URA. Section 2 describes what is contemplated to be included in the financing plan that the URA provides to the city council that would include any requests they'd have for sales tax TIF allocation. It includes the URA's budget for the upcoming fiscal year. It includes projected sales and property tax TIF revenue, existing financial obligations of the URA, and then projected operating and capital expenditures. Those are required to be included in the financing plan that would accompany any request for sales tax TIF. Section 3 basically just addresses the city council review process, which basically says the city council would review that financing plan and TIF request as part of the annual budgeting process. And then city council would have the option at its sole discretion to allocate sales tax revenue to the URA for the project or not, or to modify its allocation from the requested amount. So it's basically totally in the city council's discretion. I think the whole point here was to just make sure both parties were clear on what the process was for making the request and for the decision getting made. Section 4 provides that the URA has the option outside of the annual budgeting process to make a request for additional city council consideration for financing, and they could submit other financing plans, but it's subject to city council's discretion too. You know, if an opportunity came up that they thought they needed some more money for, they can make that request. So it doesn't limit them to the budget process, just gives them an option to make the request at other times as well. Then it's contemplated that if city council approves a sales tax allocation, that it would basically be reduced to writing in what's called a cooperation agreement. So it wouldn't just be a motion or a resolution, it would actually be an agreement clarifying what the money has to be spent on, what the limitations are, the maximum amount, the term where you're going to allocate funds to the URA, because they need to be able to rely on getting funds for a certain period of time so they could finance development projects. That's up to you. It's, once again, that's not going to be anything that you don't agree to. It would just be a document that would basically clarify what the terms are. I'm being attacked by a fly here, excuse me. And then I believe it is, make sure I'm not missing one. Section 6 is just a notice provision, and Section 7 is basically saying that, anything that city council does is subject to its annual appropriation process. So I hope that shortened it to what people were looking for, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, council, questions for Mr. Parker? I think it's greatly simplified. I think I could understand it pretty well, so surprised him. Judith, did you have a question?
I do. Jeff, how does this augment or change the URA agreement we currently have in any form, really?
So we don't really have a URA agreement addressing this. We have what's your basic urban renewal plan that was put in place. I'm forgetting what year it was, but it's been a while. And the URA plan has I think a couple of sentences saying that they can submit a financing plan to city council for allocation of sales tax TIF. doesn't really provide any other details, what's supposed to be in it, what exactly is a financing plan, what's the process for getting it approved. So I think it provides a few more details for what's just sort of a general statement that they can provide you with a financing plan. So I think the purpose was to say, here's how you're going to do it, and here's how we're going to make a decision, and here's what a financing plan is. So that's the main difference, Councilmember
And
Chandler.
I have one more follow-up question. With regards to projects that are already in the queue, and I will use the Paragon property as an example. One of the things that I would like to see is regular feedback and reports to council regarding projects that are already in the queue. I think that's the only one for, I get a lot of questions from people who are asking me what's going on with the Paragon property. And I too would like to know that, where we are with that, what's going on, what isn't going on, so that we can be well informed and make good decisions. So I don't know if this can be language woven into this MOU, or if that's just an aside issue that we can address with the URA separately, that we want more regular and frequent reports on what is already going on or not.
Yeah, you certainly are free to add more language, and we have more discussions with the URA about what should be provided to the city council. The flip side is that this agreement, or this MOU, basically puts every decision about what to allocate into the city council's discretion. And my expectation would be that if you want additional information about projects, either presented with the financing plan or at regular intervals, you have the authority to basically request that and make that a condition of any further approvals of funds.
I would then like to add some language that we, once an approval is made, that we get regular feedback in no less than 6-month intervals during the duration of a project.
So there's two ways of doing that. One way would be to put in this agreement. Another way would be to put it in the cooperation agreement that we do with every approval.
I'll defer to council for discussion on that. I don't know what the best way to approach that is. I just want regular feedback to council on these really large projects on a regular basis.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I think it is helpful to have progress reports on any large project, and certainly the URA has some that would be a good, certainly good candidates for this. I guess my personal feeling is that I think the MOU as it is now, I think it's a pretty complete document. I think the suggestion that Mr. Parker made to incorporate into a cooperation agreement for each, for each agreement that we make with the URA, the URA to stipulate what a reasonable reporting interval might be, or set milestones. So I guess I would prefer to do that separately. I don't see that there's anything precluding us from simply asking the URA to come in and give us an update or status periodically every 3 months or 6 months or something like that. And I'm seeing head nods from the URA representatives. Do other council members have thoughts on this? And Mr. Neville, would you like to give us your thoughts on this? And certainly I think with, say, the Paragon property, I've been curious too. I would like to get updates.
I'm Ann Nichols. I'm on the URA board. I'm at 208 Pawnee Avenue in Manitou.
David Neville, counsel to MSURA.
Great, thank you.
And I think obviously the board would be willing at any time to come discuss with council what little we know about what's going on. We do have a standing item on our monthly agenda where our executive director reports on any discussions he's had with Paragon. I think at the moment, Paragon is probably in discussion with planning department more than us, really, because it's a kind of an entitlement issue. But we would certainly be happy to come before the council at any point to keep you apprised of what we do know about what's going on with Paragon.
Thank you, Ann. Mr. Neville?
I would also offer, I don't want to speak for him, but I do believe that Mr. Reese is online observing this meeting right now as the executive director. And I think it's perfectly understandable to ask him for regular updates to council.
Okay, I guess with that, I would ask for an update on the Paragon properties, say within the next 60 days. I'd be curious, would council be interested in that? Nancy?
Yeah, I would certainly be interested. I think we just have to be cautious of quasi judicial issues now that it's with now that they're discussing it directly with planning. So, but they might be able to do I don't know. It depends. Yeah. Just something to think about. That's all.
Yeah, I understand. You always have to dance around or consider the quasi judicial nature of things. Mr.
I don't believe anything has officially been submitted to planning, and no application fee, I don't believe, has been posted. So I don't think there's any quasi judicial items that are going on here. Unless Paragon or somebody'd like to update me. I haven't heard that.
Okay, thank you. I guess then if council has no objections, I would ask that the URA within the next 60 days brings us up to date with what you know. And sometimes I realize that things are a little cloudy, and again, obviously we have to be careful of the quasi judicial thing, but I think we're curious. Everybody who drives down Manitou Avenue is curious, and they sometimes let us know. So I think that'd be good for us to be able to speak a little more knowledgeably. So if you would do that, yeah, we'll
certainly be happy to
yeah,
do
if you
that.
could check your calendars, and then we'll go ahead and get something probably for a work session. Great.
Sure.
And since we've got you up here, this would be a good time if you have comments relative to this agreement or.
Speaking as the council, the agreement is in the form that we have approved and submitted together with your council.
Great, thank you. Council, do we have any further discussion or questions for anybody? I guess I'd look for a motion then to approve this MOU.
I'll move approval.
Okay,
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councillor Chandler, motion in the first place by Councillor Shada. Any further discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. Councillor Chandler, how do you vote?
I vote to approve.
The motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for the work you've done on this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Think that helps set a better working relationship between the RA and City Council. So now it's time to go out and do great things, huh? Cheers. Okay, next item is first reading of ordinance number 0624. An ordinance amending the budget for fiscal year 2024. And this is a standard bit of housekeeping that we do as we get to mid-year and have a better idea of what our expenses and revenues have been so far. So we have our finance director, Becca Davis. Becca?
Good evening, Rebecca Davis, Finance Director. So as the mayor said, every year around July, we bring an amended budget to council for approval by ordinance to make changes to the budget based on the first half of the year's performance. So the good news is we ended 2023 in a stronger than expected position. The 2023 final budget had an ending unassigned fund balance of approximately $5,662,000. And the actual ending fund balance was $7,036,000. This was due to revenues coming in higher than budgeted, and also to department heads' close monitoring of expenses and being as frugal as possible. So in this amended budget, the biggest decrease is for the 2024 sales tax revenue. Based upon the January through April's revenues, I've decreased sales tax by 6% from the actual revenue received in 2023. And other revenues were also adjusted, including the EMS transport. It was adjusted down due to a delay in being approved for Medicare, and it took a while to get the billing process in place. Now, for expenditures, the 5% merit increase that was approved by City Council at the beginning of the year was added to the various departments. And unexpectedly, the property and casualty insurance had to be increased because it was higher than originally budgeted. Workers' comp, I was able to adjust adjust it so that it wasn't that much greater than before, but property and casualty, we were kind of stuck. So various other adjustments were made to track the January through June's numbers. And that included increasing capital costs that were planned for 2023, and then they extended into 2024. And most of the adjustments that were made in this budget were not unusual. Just the sales tax revenue, that's something we haven't had to do in quite a while. So we're going to be watching that very closely in the coming months. But that really concludes my presentation of the changes. And now I would like to answer any questions that council may have.
Council, questions? Judith?
Thank you, Becca. By my math in the memorandum, it looks like that this is an increase of $950,400 thus far. How, if at all, does this impact the city's reserves, given that the sales tax revenue, specifically, especially from the marijuana stores, might need to be adjusted in the future? Do we still have pretty strong reserves after this?
We're actually better in our reserves with this amended budget than we were with the original budget, using the original budgeted ending unassigned fund balance for 2023. So we're actually in a better position. It's at this point, it looks like it's going to be approximately 6,300,000. And originally we were looking at about 5,383,000. So we're actually better now.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to hear, and thank you. That's all I have. Thanks.
Yeah, looking at it, we're close to almost $1 million ahead of where we thought we'd be. So that's great news. I guess a question I have, and I think we're looking pretty good, but it would seem like all the commitments we've made in the programs we've undertaken, we should be able to complete them and implement them without too much concern. I mean, we'll watch the dollars, of course, but I don't think we have major risks.
Right. At this point, we're going to be really watching the revenues, keeping close to the budget, and just going ahead with the projects that we currently have.
Great. Thank you. Denise?
Mayor, I do want to mention the one thing that we really are watching closely is our water projects. As you know, we got that loan, but those costs seem to continue to escalate. So we will continue to look for grants and work with DOLA and others, but that is a project that we have to watch very, very closely because we can't finish all those projects in a year. So we'll continue to monitor that and keep council informed as we move forward.
Great. Thank you. Council, any additional comments or questions? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, no further comments, I would look for a motion to approve this ordinance on first reading. Nancy?
First, I would just want to say good job, staff. That's really encouraging news on what you guys have done, not encouraging news on the fact the sales tax has gone down, but whatever. I move to approve on first reading ordinance number 0624, an ordinance amending the annual budget for fiscal year 2024 and set a public hearing for July 16th, next week, at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Johnson. Any further discussion? Let's go ahead and vote. Counselor Chandler, how do you vote?
Move to approve.
The motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. And
Thank you.
thank you very much. Thanks for the good work you did and pass it on down through all the city staff. That's important that we watch the dollars and spend them wisely. Great. And as Mayor Pro Tem had mentioned in her motion, we will be bringing this back next week. Again, we'll have a regular meeting next week. And we have to have this, actually this one, we give ourselves a self-imposed deadline trying to get this done by the end of July. So that's what we'll do. Okay, great. So that takes us to council correspondence. Anybody have anything? Nancy?
Sure. First, I wanted to also give kudos to the staff of the library tour. That went very well and I think was incredibly well received by the public and probably could have accommodated about 10 more tours. So that was great. Secondly, I did go to the URA meeting last week and I do step out now when they talk about Paragon just to make sure that there's no conflict there, whether I need to or not. But one thing that they're looking at is to activate or to support the activation of the Paragon site is to they're working with a group to have a music festival there perhaps in August. So more to follow on that. But it sounds like a very exciting possibility and opportunity for the city. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Great. Anybody else? Okay. So I did want to run a question and a couple of things past council. So right now, by the end of this month, we have to approve the city audit. The city audit, we don't expect it to be ready until time for the July 23rd meeting. That's typically, I mean, that's the fourth Tuesday. It would be a work session typically, but that's really all we have that. And I think the other item we have would be approval of the contract for the water tank. Both of those seem to me to be fairly, I characterize them as housekeeping issues, probably not terribly controversial. On the assumption that we will have the audit in time to act on it for the July 23rd meeting, I would suggest we consider the idea of just having a remote meeting. I think we could probably get the meeting done in about 5 minutes, unless if you anticipate we want to spend more time going through the audit, we can certainly meet in person and do that. But historically, it's been a pretty straightforward exercise. So I'd look to council to get a little bit of direction. Would you want to try and keep it quick and do it on Zoom? Or we can meet in person. It could still be a quick meeting. Natalie, do you agree? You want to go the Zoom route?
Zoom is great.
Possible? Okay, John? You're okay with that, Nancy?
I'll do either.
Okay. Michelle, Zoom, okay. And Counselor Chandler? What's your
Zoom is fine with me.
Okay, Zoom would be fine with me. So, okay, but again, this is contingent upon us getting the city audit in, and we're pretty sure we'll have it. But assuming we can do that, we'll plan to make it a Zoom meeting. So, if you're trying to plan your life, let's go with the idea that June 23rd will be a remote meeting, and hope we can keep it that way. The other thing I wanted to mention was next week's meeting, and our meeting tonight sort of started with that, with some concerns about the Jenkins presentation next week. So I want to run by you how I see the agenda for that item going, let you know what it is. And if you have different ideas, you can let me know. So I thought we'd start off, we would let the Jenkins do their presentation. I think this would take 20 to 30 minutes. Once they've completed their presentation, City Council would be able to ask questions, make comments, have some dialogue with the Jenkins. Then we would open public comment, and that would be our typical protocol. It'd be 3 minutes for whoever wants to talk. They get to talk once, have to give their name and address. we would encourage people not to be repetitious, but certainly if someone wants to come forward and say, I completely support what the previous speaker said, or I completely disagree, that'd be fine. But you've seen it work before. It seems to work pretty well and gives everybody a chance to be heard. And it's good for the recording purposes and for anyone who's watching remotely. So we do that. Public comment would close. The Jenkins would have a chance to respond to questions or comments. Then council would discuss the matter. It'd be similar in format to a kind of a hearing, except we wouldn't be taking any formal action. And then at the conclusion of that, I'll just go around the table and see what council's thinking would be. Essentially, I think it's questions you want to pursue this with future discussion or to simply end the matter. Again, there wouldn't really be any formal action, no agreements, no, it's, do you want to continue the discussion? Do you want to just table it indefinitely, let it go away? So that would be my thought. I would, I'll ask for your thoughts now. If you're okay with that, we'll plan to go that route. Okay. I think I do expect there'll be a little bit of emotional, potentially some contentiousness, but I think we've done that before. And actually, as a small community, I think we've done pretty well. We've had times when everybody got to speak. They got up and they said, you know, these are my thoughts, and I also support what so-and-so said. And they actually take less than 3 minutes. So it's surprising how well it has worked in the past. We've had it with some other land use issues. So I just want to give you that as a heads up. That's how it'll be. I'll be running the gavel. So hopefully we can move along without spending amounts of time on small subjects that I would anticipate is going to be fairly complicated, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll set up for a large crowd. But certainly go ahead and you can share those ideas with anyone who asks or your constituents. Certainly public comment will be encouraged despite what the Caradio news brief had said earlier. Anything else for council correspondence? Okay, city administrator's report.
Since you approved the road paving today, then we'll plan on starting July 22nd. So currently they're doing some pothole repair and track sealing, and then we'll cape seal and pave the other roads that are listed. So thank you.
Okay, great. Denise, anything?
Yeah, I just want to mention that the audit, usually we do that the second week of July, but the auditors are behind. So this is really not due to us at this point. Thank you for doing that, because we do want to make sure that we make it on time. And then I do want to recognize Becca and the entire staff for the way we ended 2023. That's pretty remarkable, and it shows the due diligence and the financial fiscal responsibility our department heads take on. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor? Let's see. We're going to vote electronically here. I think we're going to vote electronically here. We'll just do it by votes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.